Hey, Merle. So how's your day going? Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
It is
Well,
October
the day just started
16th.
for me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, I just got back from the gym. I walked out to the car knowing that hearing the news forecast, weather forecast, that it was 42 degrees.
What?
So I walked out to go to the gym with my car keys. I got out there and I'm like, I can do this. I can ride this. It was nice. I
40,
rode to the gym in my
42
shorts.
is chilly. That's
Shorts,
wow.
t-shirt, and just my cycling jacket. And in my weightlifting gloves, I'll have to
Right.
say, I did have to ride almost the entire way with my hands in my pockets because my fingers were cold.
Yeah,
Besides that, I was comfortable.
You said it was 42. That's like 10 degrees above freezing.
You know, though, it's like I said before, there are different 42s. And
You're
when I
right,
walked
you're right.
outside, I expected that bone chilling. I expected, you may, I don't know, see frost. I don't know, kind of expected that. No, I walked out and I'm like, this is kind of nice. I did not regret the ride. I thought I might get
Good.
started and have to
Yeah.
turn around.
I just got
Huh.
goosebumps. I got to chill just thinking about it.
Yeah.
Ooh. It's been about 100 degrees every day the last few days
Still?
here. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
We got a reprieve over the weekend, but this week it's just been hot.
Shit. How are the fires going these days?
Nothing actually near me, but I mean, there's still fires going on out here in the West. I called on a hospital day before yesterday, and they said, I was asking for an individual, and they said, "Oh, well, the hospital's closed now." And I thought, well, it's 4:30, and you guys closed the hospital? What are you talking about? She said, "Oh, no, the fires." So that was in Oregon. So, we've got, we're not out of the woods, no pun intended, yet.
Wow, that's amazing to me.
I know.
I mean, at this mid-October, and I think I have one more Friday to go in sober October. It's the Fridays that kill me.
I can understand that. I was going to add a little bit to that last thing is that we, at this time of the year, we have what's called the Santa Anas, and those are
I've heard of it.
Those are winds that happen due to the air pressure changing due to wintertime coming, and the wind and the fires and the dryness all together equal perfect storm. And boy, a couple of years ago, Anne Marie and I almost had to evacuate. It was that close to our house.
I remember that. Right?
Yeah. So this isn't over yet. We should probably introduce ourselves.
Oh, thank you. We, for the first time a few weeks ago, we never did an introduction. This is the first and only time. Welcome to Over 50, starting over, everyone. I'm Barry Edwards.
And I'm Merle Garrison.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for doing that. And
No
hey,
worries.
I wanted to say something I forgot to mention last week. Last week, the Browns were 3-1. Now they're 4-1.
Oh, my gosh. The season's going to get canceled. I'm telling you.
I know. Going into Pittsburgh this Sunday.
How exciting is that?
I'm
now,
not.
How is Pittsburgh? I have not been following. How is Pittsburgh?
Pittsburgh is 4-0.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But I mean, the word on the street is that they haven't really beat anybody of consequence yet. And the Browns, I could say, the Colts last week were the only one of consequence. Now you could somewhat include Dallas, but they've been struggling as well. But Dallas, even in their worst years, normally clean our clocks,
What's, from a Browns perspective, what's their strength this year? Is it defense, offense? Is it both? What's their deal?
That's pretty loaded because I would say there's two things. For one, the running game. However, Nick Chubb went out with a knee that's going to keep him out for a few weeks. Nick Chubb is possibly, I'm not exaggerating here, possibly the best running back we've had since Jim Brown.
No.
And we have this tandem, him and Kareem Hunt, and they are hands down, believe it or not, they are better than the Biner and Mack combo of the 80s.
That's saying a lot.
It's saying a lot. I realize what I'm saying, and I'm not kidding. Kareem Hunt, we got for a song because he beat up a drunk girl or something like that. One of those typical horrifying stories. So he got his second chance there. This is his hometown. And so we got him for a song as long as he rehabilitates himself. And by all accounts, he's done an amazing job. This is his second year here, and he led the league in rushing a few years ago. Even better than him is Nick Chubb, who we drafted a couple years ago. He's amazing. He is unbelievably amazing, but he's out with a knee right now for a few weeks. But we have Hunt, and the backups behind him are good. So it's still a big strength, but tied there. You say, what are the strengths? Tied is our one-man defense, Myles Garrett. And he's a defensive lineman. He's a beast. Oh my God, he's a beast. He creates game-changing plays every game. Like a couple sacks that will end a big drive, but the occasional, like once a game strip sack that results in a turnover at an opportune time. He's a beast. And he's also, without him, our defense would suck. Yeah, the secondary is very beat up. So
linebackers
thin at linebacker. So without him, the defense would suck. They are definitely a bend, kind of not breaking defense. And if it weren't for him, they'd be a bending and breaking defense. You need that pressure on the quarterback, you know?
Yeah, you do. And the defense
with Roethlisberger losing a step as he gets older, I hope Garrett gets them and takes them down a couple times hard. Yeah. But we'll see.
I kind of miss those days when the Steeler Browns game were, going strong. Those were my favorite.
And with the endless carousel of coaches that come here every year, the past coaches have never gotten it. I mean, it'd be like last year we saw Freddie. Oh God, so embarrassing. So we play Pittsburgh and everyone's like, oh my God, they're beating us up. They don't realize Pittsburgh still plays the Browns like a rivalry, like it's the AFC Championship.
I mean, it's the most important game of the year as far as Clevelanders are concerned.
Absolutely, and many of the past coaches never got it, and they would come out there playing like it's preseason or something, and just get their asses kicked.
I mean, that's
not going to happen this year.
You could win 2 games all season, and that's it, and it would be a good season if those 2 games were you beat the Steelers.
True. It's kind of like an OSU Michigan rivalry, and it used to be commonly held that this was the best rivalry in all professional sports.
Oh, it's classic. It's classic.
Decades,
that's sorry. I'm sorry to hear that.
Don't be. This
growing
Sunday,
up, yeah.
This Sunday we'll be right back there. I'll guarantee it.
Well, good to hear that. I'm glad to hear that. For me, it just brings back a lot of nostalgia because growing up, my dad was a big Browns fan, and his folks lived in Pittsburgh. And man, every time those games happened, the phone, in between commercials, the phone would ring. They'd just be, talking smack.
Yeah.
It was so fun.
That's me texting today.
And I remember also, if the Browns lost, which most of the time they did when I was growing up.
Sure.
The phone would ring at the end of the game and my dad wouldn't answer it.
Yeah. My buddies and I go back and forth on that too. I don't know. The rivalry's been dead for so long and it was so pathetic and when we lost the team in the late 90s, the Steeler fans were backing us up with the NFL big time. They wanted our team back bad.
I know.
I never
remember.
Forgot that.
I tell you what, I actually became a Steeler fan. When the Browns left, I was so mad I became a Steeler fan.
I respect the heck out of them. What a great organization.
That's the Rooney family. They were always in it to win.
They do it right, man.
They're champions. They're champions.
And they build it from the inside out. They build it at the lines. They always have an amazing offensive line. Everybody thinks that they always have the best running back in the league. No, they got the best offensive line in the league.
Almost any. You and I could be the greatest running backs if we had the best line.
Yeah. So
anybody can make it through that hole.
Got a lot to learn there. You got to keep your blue chip pieces in place, and then you're going to be just fine. Got another piece of news for you. You're going to be surprised about. Remember last week I was talking about how I did some applied for some volunteer things to prepare for my SAD disorder, seasonal affective disorder, coming up as the months get
how's
colder.
it going?
Well, I immediately got rejected by Metro because of COVID. They shut down all of that kind of stuff.
Right.
And I got a bunch of loosey-goosey stuff from Secondhand Mutts, my dog rescue. But we'll see. Maybe something will come up. However, I got a very nice response from Shaker Lakes Nature Center. And I did a Zoom call yesterday with the director of the volunteer stuff, and it was so fun. She was so nice, Jeanette Moore. Oh, she was so nice. And she's just like, well, what do you want to do? And I'm like, just about anything. I just want to help out. I don't care if it's cleaning up the grounds. She's like, you'd be great for being a guide on nature walks.
That's the best. That's the best.
Yeah. So, I'm going to be all over that. She's like, how often do you want to do it? I said, two nights a week would be ideal, or 2 days or whatever,
How fun.
Yeah. I'm like, do I get a gun?
Gun.
She looked at me for a minute. I'm like, I'm just kidding.
We're gonna have to rescind this offer.
Right. So I'm looking forward to that because it's a beautiful operation. You said that you even remember it.
Yeah. Oh my! I'll never forget it. I'll never forget it. In fact, what the guy did while we were there was he found a cocoon. It was a monarch butterfly cocoon, and he gave it to our first grade teacher. And we brought that cocoon back into class, and she taped it up on the wall. And we actually saw this, I guess it was weeks later, we saw the whole progression, and we saw the butterfly come out of the cocoon. Wow. And it flew out the window one day. Wow. It was one of the most spectacular things. I'll never forget it. That was beautiful.
Oh, that's really cool. And it really stuck with you.
And it was from Shaker Lakes.
Shaker Lakes Nature Center. Nice.
Yeah.
Well, hey, bud, moving right along, we got a lot. And by the way, we didn't realize it until at the end of the show last week. That was our 50th episode.
Number 50. That's a big deal. Big deal.
Even bigger next week.
We're coming up to end of season 2 and 1 year anniversary.
Exactly. Wow. So I didn't realize that we basically started right around Halloween last year. I thought we started in November, but it was late October.
Yep.
We did not miss a beat. We kind of planned a little wiggle room, figuring that we might miss like 2 weeks throughout the year, and we didn't miss a single week.
It's too fun.
It is. It's too fun. To have a purpose and a reason to spend another hour with you each week is all the reason I need. I look forward to it so much.
I do too, Barry.
Oh, thank you. I wanted to, in our career self-improvement section, I wanted to talk about lists. And the more you think about lists, the more you'll realize how they affect every aspect of our lives. And if you don't use them correctly, you're not running your life that effectively. And let me tell you, preaching to the choir here, because I come and go with lists all day long. I literally could talk about this all day long. Now, what I mean by this is there is the honeydew list that I get from Lisa all the time. She's a huge list person. And so she inflicts them on me quite often.
Inflicts.
But work-wise, I do a lot of different things. I go from writing stuff on the back of envelopes that are sitting around to I organize my files on my computer in such a way that it's a very effective project management list. But when I'm working with a team, that is my team, and a lot of stuff is going on that needs to be organized. I use a program called an online program. It's called a SaaS. You know what a SaaS is? Software. What is that? SaaS. But it means it's
software as a service.
There you go. Online software. So Trello, Trello, Trello.com. is a terrific project management software where you can assign tasks. It is very well organized. You can plan out your day, your week. You can plan out a whole calendar and by project, assign people to certain tasks on that project. If you're interested in that, if you have need for that, look up a YouTube video on it. And there's a lot of different ways that you can use it, but it's very, very effective. So when I have complex teams and projects going on, I do use Trello. The challenge to that is getting other people to keep their tasks updated or put some time in to learn how to use it and join the team effectively. A lot of
Right.
times ego enters in, and
How so?
you got a team member that has their way of doing things,
Right.
and feel like you're dictating to them how they should work, and yet they see themselves as a peer, which is, hey, that's fine. But if you're on a team, be a team player.
Yeah.
I do a lot of I do a lot of give and take on teams I'm on to be a team player. So sometimes you just can't get people to cooperate because the ego plays in. They have their own way of doing things, and you get a little bit of attitude. So it is important to be on the same page. But here's a downside to lists that I fall into this trap a lot. When email becomes your list, and your clients start dictating your day by sending you all these things that need done that are really hot priorities, this, that, or the other. I mean, let me just join in if you feel my pain here.
I do. Well, and it's not just in corporate America, it's your boss is going to send you, wow, I need this by this time, the fire drill is what we call it. And that happens a lot of times as well. It's just how America and corporate living has become. I mean, remember when we first started in business, we didn't have email. Can you imagine a world where you don't have email? I mean,
it's amazing.
But now
it's hard for me to remember back to that.
It is hard to just even realize that there was a time that we actually lived our lives without voicemail, without text messaging, and without email.
And isn't that interesting? Because we were always told how technology was going to make our lives so much easier and free up so much more of our time. And when I look back on that, there's a double-edged sword. And here's something I'll never forget. When I first went into business for myself in like 1995, I had to do a logo or something for someone. And boy, I would be charging a couple $1,000s for a logo back then because it was a big project. I would have to go to the library and do all my research. When you did a logo back then, the way I did, I would present with all my concepts written out and a number of proofs that back up why I chose this concept and why it's the right one for the given situation. I mean, it was
I remember seeing your work back then.
Yeah. And so I would have to go to the library at least once a week. And oh my God, you never found what you were looking for. You go through a card catalog, which sounds like you might as well be going through Morse code or something. And try, the book is in this aisle and on this shelf. Nah, it was never there. I mean, most of the time
it never was there. The freaking card catalog.
Yeah, but the way technology changed design and changed marketing is I can't even put words to the power of it, because all of a sudden overnight you could Google images and get all these ideas for different concepts that you have without ever leaving your chair.
Wow.
So design.
There it is. It made it easier for you.
It made everything better. It made everything easier, correct. But it increased the competition exponentially, and everything got infinitely better. All aspects of the design got so much better that then, coupled with the web, the internet, design became much more of a functionality than it did as an aspect of marketing. So what I mean is now you have to be able to design stuff online so that people can better find the ideas that you want them to find and lead them to the conclusions that you want to lead them to. So user interface design is what it more or less is.
Right. So in that sense, it made things better. It made it easier to be more convenient.
But it made everything harder.
And in that same space of making it more convenient, I remember, this whole email thing, and when we found out, well, look, you can now get your email on your smartphone, and look, you won't even have to come back to your desk. You could be anywhere, and you can answer these emails. You could do emails. And that was like, woohoo, we're free. We're untethered from the desk. Okay, well, that actually means that Now you have to work 24/7.
There you go.
So
Isn't
no
that
matter
the
where you
truth?
go, you can't even go on a vacation because it's
Yeah.
going to follow you there. It's really this whole paradigm has changed as far as how we work and when
Mhm.
we work, and it's an
And
amazing thing.
and now we're getting to the point of automation, even AI, artificial intelligence. I do a lot of that on Facebook. Okay, so I set up something for a company and somebody wants to inquire. I could set up a long series of questions. Somebody says hello, I say hello back. Hey, what can I help you with? There's one of three answers that are likely. I can have a response for each one of those. And then it just kind of finally gets to, okay, look, we'll get back to you, as soon as possible. Thank you for leaving your message. I mean, there goes your receptionist. That's a mild example of AI. That's
Well,
automated.
AI is kind of frightening to me as far as how it could be used, but I found this program called Crystal Knows, and what it does is it analyzes people's personalities,
Wow.
and you can use this for a sales for your sales process. It's a plugin to Google, and you can go on LinkedIn. In fact, I did this on you, Barry, and I pulled up your profile on LinkedIn, and then I clicked on the little add in to Google, and it gives a whole personality profile on you and what you like, and if I were going to go into a sales call with you, how I should behave to get the best
Oh my
reaction from
God.
you.
Oh
And
my God.
and I looked you up, and I did it on you, and I found it to be, yep, that's Barry, all right. And I
Wow.
actually did it on myself too, and I could see tips on. It was saying, get to the point, be direct, don't give too many details. That's going to frustrate him. It was perfect. It was perfect.
What's the name of it
It's
again?
called Crystal Knows. It's about $30 a month. You can go to their website. It's Crystal, as in Crystal, and Knows, Knows. So it's crystalknows.com. Go there. They'll
Wow.
give you a free trial. You can use 10. You get 10 chances to look up people, and then you can subscribe. It's
That's
29
amazing.
$95 a month. It's amazing, it's cool, and it's kind of scary.
No, I agree with you on all fronts there. It's scary in all regards where we're going. And like even Zoom right now, we've had this capability for about 20 years doing the Zoom, but we all of a sudden, because of COVID, started to get so used to this, it's become a norm. I can't imagine. I mean, I think in 2 years, we're going to be standing next to each other via holograms.
Huh.
Uh,
I don't know. It's interesting you say that. We just had an event this week, and it was called our Connect, where we bring in our customers. Now, normally this is an on-site meeting, but we had to do it virtual this year. And I think the company did a really good job of doing this. We had about 400 participants, and customers actually, they're the ones in the spotlight, and they talk about case studies and how they use the product, how it actually benefited them. And it went well. But we did get feedback from people that said, I hated it. And it wasn't because of the content. It was because they didn't have that human touch. They like to go to the place. They like to see the other people and interact with the other people, go out to dinner, have a couple drinks, whatever. That is something that human beings need to have.
for now.
And not only that, but in the industry, and I'm in healthcare, these people are in hospitals all day long. They're going to the same place, seeing the same people. They need to get out and be with other people, kind of let their hair down a little bit. And
Mm.
that's something I think there's no replacement. A hologram is not going to replace that.
I don't know about that, Merle, because upcoming generations are always different. I mean, we saw it when we were kids too. I remember, like when I was a kid, when we were kids, in our neighborhood, my friends and I were out running through the woods and on the railroad tracks and riding our bikes all day long. We were
Same.
not to be found until we had to
Yeah,
absolutely come back.
when the sun went
That,
down.
as I was going into high school and college and watching the younger kids come up, we had a treasure of woods and swamps and rivers,
Same. Yep.
and they didn't partake at all. They stayed right on the little road, right in front of the house, riding their bikes and playing
Well, now
video
look
games.
at them. Yeah, yeah.
So
Look
I'm
at 'em
telling
now.
you, I
Yeah.
think
Yeah,
that
you might be right. You might be
upcoming
right.
generations, they don't care about getting schmoozed at a restaurant. I think they're going to be more and more socially dorky. And
I think that's sad.
well, I do too, but I think I still think that we're merging with technology, and it's a natural part of the
I
merging.
know.
Like
That's a
that
whole
butterfly that you watch transform, I think that's exactly what we're doing as well. We're leading
All
to that.
right. I love the butterfly analogy. I've got another
Mhm.
one. I think in a spiritual sense, the butterfly analogy can be applied. It's a beautiful analogy. And I hope you're wrong about the
I don't think I am.
merging with technology,
No way.
because I think that takes away from humanity. But I think we could go in a lot of different directions here. I wanted to go back to the list thing that you brought up.
I did too, because I wanted to hear your end.
Well, I used a Franklin planner for years when I first got started in business. And the fact is, you're never going to be able to remember everything. You need to have lists. You need to be writing things down. I have a good friend that used to say, if you don't write it down, it's not going to happen, or it never happened.
Yeah.
It's just very important. So I do that too. I use our CRM at Salesforce
That's what I thought.
to do tasks and things like that. So that's my list. Or I've got a notebook over here. I'm constantly writing lists as well. But on the flip side of this, I think that I've been programmed to have maybe a negative feeling about lists because of what you were saying before about Lisa coming in and inflicting you with a list. My parents would do that growing up, but they would, I'll never forget, Saturday morning, you'd want to sleep in, right? My dad would come in the room. He was an early riser. It'd be like 6 o'clock in the morning. He'd pound on my door and he'd say, here's all the stuff you're going to do today. And he'd list out a bunch of stuff. And then I'd get out of bed and there would be a list on the kitchen table that was like 2 pages long of different things I had to do. It took me all day, maybe even to the next day. And my mother, she would make a list for me, but then she'd review the list with me in finite detail. And it was like, okay, I'm ready. I understand. Wash the dishes. I know how to do this. And the funny thing is Anne Marie is a list person. I mean, she's got a book of lists that she's made, and she could go back like several years. And just the other day, she was telling me, look, honey, remember that party we had back in 2015? Here's all the things that I had to get for that party. And she's going through this list of things that I remember now. I had to get the cheese, and then I had to get I'm like, are you kidding me? You're really going to read me the list of everything? Sometimes, I feel like I'm being listed to death.
Yeah.
And I think it's a personality thing, because it's back to that crystal nose thing. You have to get to the point with me, otherwise you're going to lose me.
I hear you, but you got a lot going on a daily basis. I'm talking work wise right now, because I want to talk personal wise too, because I want to get to how I use the iPhone so much for myself personally. But so professionally, how effective is Salesforce for you? Or is it just a means to an end where you have to, as part of the team, I have to record this stuff at the end of the day?
I'm a fan. I'm a fan of Salesforce.
Okay.
It's and I'm not just saying that because my boss might be watching. I think if I don't have it in there, I'm going to forget about it. Yeah. I mean, that's just it. I have to write things down. I have to keep them in front of me. Some things do seem obligatory, but for the most part, I think it's a very effective tool in order to keep things flowing.
Oh, that's cool. And as I recall, I do think it's the most popular CRM system out there. I think.
It's the biggest one out there.
Yeah. Almost everyone knows a Salesforce. So on a personal level, I use the iPhone in my notes app, I have a separate notes that I had with shopping in all caps, and it's always there. So because I try to remember those 3 things I need when I go to the store, and I'll be damned if I never remember at least 2 of the 3 when I
That's
get in there,
hilarious. Same
no matter
here.
what I do.
Yep.
So
Same
I
here.
have to put those in my phone. And because I'm such an avid cyclist, I have this kick butt backpack that my mom got me for Christmas. I use it all the time. So I do all my grocery shopping 2 bags at a time. That goes into my backpack. So I'm always at the store
That's
buying
hilarious.
Yeah. So I always need a few things. And I have to put it in notes.
During the height of COVID, I would not let Anne-Marie go to the supermarket.
That's a man. There you go.
I just, she catches colds easily. Like anytime we fly on a plane, she comes down with something. So I'm like, okay, you're not going. I never catch colds. I'm going to the store. But she would make a list for me. And she go, I just have a couple of things. And I'm okay, sure. And then she hands me a scroll. I was like, a couple of things. It happens every time.
Yeah.
And so I'm in the store with my mask on. Back then I was wearing gloves too. And then I'm trying to breathe. I can't. And there's always some kind of specialty thing on there. Like, what kind of crackers? Why not just regular saltine? I don't understand.
You get to the point where these are good enough.
No, I can't do that. I have to. So I'll call her up and then have to talk on the phone. You're talking on the phone, wearing a mask. Have you done? This is hard. Yes. I mean, I think I'm gonna pass out. I'm like, honey, I can't talk any longer. Just text it to me. But anyhow, so I'd be in the store for like 2 hours trying to find this on the scavenger hunt, trying to find these things.
Right.
Anyhow, this is where the list thing. It's tough for me.
I hear you. Another thing that I have in my notes, another list item is movies/TV. Because people, I hate going through Netflix and Amazon Prime, wondering what I'm going to watch. There's nothing on here. Scroll. But people are always telling me, oh, I saw the best thing. And it's just like shopping. I'll remember that. And then I get on Netflix or whatever, and I cannot remember.
Same here.
I have a gigantic list under movies/TV on my iPhone. So that's another thing. And I have a third one, which is just professional things. Something hits me throughout the day. Oh, I need to remember that for whether it's my business, even the podcast. If it's a subject matter I think we should address, I have a separate professional list that under notes on my iPhone, I put stuff there. So I don't consider myself to be the most organized person at all. I'm a typical left-handed guy, more artistic, and therefore I live a little more organically than so completely structured and organized as most. But I do think for a creative person, I am pretty organized just because of being in business for so many decades, so many years on my own. You kind of have to be.
You know what, just in knowing you all the years I have, you've always seemed organized to me.
Wow, I'll take that. Lisa, did you hear that? Could you say that again?
Yeah, he's organized, Lisa.
Thank you so much.
No, but I know what you're using the Notes app on your iPhone. Is that?
Yes.
Yeah, I do. I use it too. Yeah,
invaluable to me.
I'll do the same thing. Is write down like movies and stuff because I'll never remember that.
Exactly.
When I get home. I'm like, I don't know. I don't recognize. I'm scrolling through all the movies. I don't recognize any of these names.
Sure.
What does this say? I did see an interesting movie this week, and it has a lot to do with everything that's going on politically. But I watched DineshD'Sousa's Trump Card. And
I've not heard of that.
Do you know who DineshD'Sousa is?
Yeah, he's a brilliant speaker.
He really is. I'm a big fan.
Videos.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of DineshD'Sousa. I love his YouTube videos because he has no fear. He'll go into he's a conservative, but he'll go into these colleges and he'll have people ask questions, and they're tough. And he has the facts and the figures, and he's got a brilliant mind, but he's done these movies that I have been a big fan of. He just came out with the Trump Card. You can rent it or you can buy it. I rented it over YouTube. It was like $4.95. And this has everything to do with the socialist movement here in this country
Huge.
and how it's taking over and what the threat is. He compared the Trump presidency and the Lincoln presidency and the similarities there. And there's a whole lot of other things as well. But I've always said there are a lot of similarities between the presidencies, between Trump and Lincoln. And I found what he had in there to be pretty stimulating. So good movie to get. Write it down in your notes if you are interested. This is a good one.
Yeah, especially it's so timely. Of course, it's so timely.
Of course it is.
You know, I go on Google News every day and try to find interesting things, put a few things in our notes here and there to talk about. And I said this a few weeks ago, and it's really held true, that the closer that we get to the election, the less interested I am in the news, because it's just one inflammatory. I mean, it's just beyond belief, the things that are the headlines that are in the news on a daily basis. And it's the kind of stuff you think, oh my God, that's the worst headline I've ever seen in my life. But you know what? Wait 24 hours. It's going to be pretty much forgotten about for the next one. Or even, honestly, even 4 hours. You could check again midday, 4 hours later, and there will be another horrifying thing headlining in the news. And it's ridiculous. I don't know how many people are being swayed at this point politically with their vote at this. I don't know. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I think that there's definitely some people, there's a contingent of people that are in the middle. I think you're right. I think probably most people have made up their mind. However, if you take a look at last presidential election cycle, that the margins were so thin on who won each one of these states. And remember, the way that you win the presidency is it's a state by state thing. It's all about those electoral college votes. It's not about the popularity vote. You don't win the presidency that way. Right. And many of these states were actually won by mere hundreds of votes. And so really every vote counts, and each person that's undecided in the middle is a very important vote right now. And I think that actually leads into some things that I wanted to talk about. And I saw in your notes that we had a similarity here, but this active censorship and disinformation that's happening, or otherwise newspeak by the big tech giants that are out there, is actually a pretty horrifying thing that's happening right now. And this is all in order to manipulate the election. And this is a la 1984, George Orwell's 1984, that people are being manipulated right now. And the interesting thing to me is that we just went through 4 years of this Russian collusion, and Russians hacked our what was it, our social media to influence the elections. Now, in just broad daylight, these tech giants like Twitter and Facebook are just blatantly doing exactly, and Google. Yes, and they're blatantly doing exactly what they were accusing the Russians of doing, and they're getting away with this.
They were all about the Russian fake news. They were all about it. They let it all in, but all the stuff with the Hunter Biden news, they're blocking it. They're censoring it.
Yeah. So have you read the New York Post report on the Hunter Biden stuff?
I don't think so.
So that's how this all started, is the New York Post. It's the oldest newspaper in America. So they definitely have credibility. Came out with an article regarding Hunter Biden and his dealings with a representative from Burisma, who was actually asking him, as he was now on the board, to influence his father to eliminate a prosecutor who was going after the head of Burisma. And they have his hard drive. Somehow they've been able to secure his hard drive. Apparently, someone had dropped off his computer at a computer store, which Hunter Biden never picked up. It apparently belonged to him. And under the rules of the shop owner, after a certain period of time, it becomes the property of the shop owner. So the shop owner went into this and found all of these emails and very damning information that he actually turned over to the FBI.
Mm.
Now this he actually made a copy of it and gave the other copy to Rudy Giuliani. Now this has gotten to the New York Post, and it is damning information, and it's showing where there's been a collaboration between him and foreign nationals at a foreign company in the Ukraine, where he's peddling his influence in order to get favor within the Ukraine. Remember, Joe Biden was placed in charge of the aid money that we give to the Ukraine. And Ukraine is actually a poor country. So the money that we prop up that country with is a lifeblood. And this becomes a very important subject, especially when it comes to who are we going to vote for as far as president goes. Are we going to vote for somebody that actually is using the old-fashioned beltway kind of sleazy business of doing things? And this is what the American people should understand and know. The press is actually out there as a First Amendment to protect us. They represent us. They're supposed to be showing us the information that's out there. Now, is this information credible information? Well, it's coming from the New York Post. It's not coming from the Inquirer. Do we know for sure that this is actually the true information? Well, it's looking like true information. But on the flip side of that coin, when Trump and this whole collusion thing happened, which has been completely discredited, they had no problem putting all that information on Twitter and on Facebook and in Google. And now we know that the Steele dossier has been completely debunked. So there's a double standard that's happening here. And what we're seeing right now is we're seeing this really, it's a war on the American electoral process. It's a war against the American people and freedom of speech. And really our whole way of life here in America is under attack. I mean, this is the story. It's bad enough that we're seeing a presidential candidate involved in a scandal like this. I think maybe the bigger story is that our news media is actually manipulating what we're allowed to see, what we're not allowed to see, and how what we're seeing is actually interpreted.
To me, that is by far the big story. The Biden angle on this, of course, they're going to try to play up until the election as much as possible. But to me, it's right up there with Obamagate or any of the Trump and the hooker, stripper, whatever kind of stuff. All of that, it's fodder that they try to throw up there and to change your vote and control your opinion with. But it just slips through everyone's fingers soon enough. But I got to tell you, the issue of what's going on with Facebook, Google, and Twitter, to me, it's unprecedented with the freedom when we talk about freedom of speech and propaganda, the things that we've learned from generations gone by with propaganda guiding the way history unfolds and leading to communism and leading to many millions of deaths. It should not be taken lightly. And
No.
we never saw this coming. You know, social media, the whole online thing, it happened to us so quickly that we weren't prepared for it, legally speaking. And we have our friend Rex Lee, who speaks out about this. And I want to revisit some of the stuff he's written recently and see what he has to say. But I got to tell you, it scares the living hell out of me that we are unprepared for it and that we are being led around by our nose rings right now because there's so many complacent people that just go on social media to find out what they should be thinking today.
The American public seems to have been lulled to sleep, and this is when
Yes.
the enemy attacks. Ben Shapiro wrote this. I thought this was interesting, and this is really in that whole George Orwellian 1984-esque kind of thing. But he wrote, "War." This was a Twitter. "War is peace. Freedom is slavery. The 1619 Project is journalism. The New York Post is disinformation. Sexual preference is homophobic, and court packing is filling open court seats." We've seen this all in the media over the last couple of months. And these are complete lies. And the media, not just those three entities, the entire media is peddling this at us, these lies, and they're doubling down on this stuff.
I don't know what to say about that. What I mean is, how do we correct that? How do we actually enforce morality back into the media, which that goes anti-free speech? If there's true free speech, then they're free to go and put misinformation out there.
I'm glad you asked that question, because the Supreme Court has weighed in on this. And in fact, this week, Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas indicated this is an issue the court is ready to consider if a Congress heavily influenced by big tech money will not. He says when Congress enacted the statute, most of today's major internet platforms did not exist, he wrote, and now in 24 years since, we've never interpreted this provision. What he's talking about is that there is a provision called Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act. Now, this was put into place many years ago in order to protect companies that would want to protect themselves from, let's say, for instance, child pornography. Google would not want to have somebody put child pornography on their platform and have people come and watch that. So they actually have the right to delete that information.
That's interesting.
But what they've done, and this is a natural shield of protection for them, but what they've used it for, instead of the shield, they've turned it into a sword against the American people, where now they can actually censor or change the information to their advantage. And what Clarence Thomas is talking about is that the courts have not ruled on this, and we're ready to take a look at this. And what he's also saying is that, and this is probably the scariest part to me, is that the legislature should actually be doing something about this. That's where laws are actually made. The legislature is directly represented by the people and their vote. It all starts in the House of Representatives. These people are elected every 2 years for a reason. The reason is if they're doing the wrong thing, they can be voted out almost instantly. And he's saying that this is where this is going to happen. But what we're seeing, Barry, is that these tech giants are paying off the people in Congress and the people in Senate. In fact, they're actually sponsoring their campaigns. And what he's saying is, because we've got this corruption going on, that we're ready to take a look at this in the Supreme Court.
Well, I'll tell you what, when you talk about the amount of corruption, when you got companies that get that big, you're going to get corruption. There's no way around it. So it brings me to the intention of the Constitution was about anti-monopoly, so that somebody got to corner the market too much, then you broke them up as a monopoly. We saw it happen with Ohio Bell. Here's my question to you.
Yeah.
Why can we not break up a Google who's got completely, I'll bet you they're pumping money into Microsoft's Bing in order so that they have enough competition to dodge the monopoly thing. I'll bet you. Apple I think it was Microsoft used to do that with Apple when Apple was faltering, so that they wouldn't get broken up as a monopoly.
Yeah, well, here's the deal is that, and just today we find out, let's see if I have this article up, but we found out that the Senate has actually called on Google it's actually Twitter. Let's see. Oh my God, this is amazing news that's out here today. Twitter and Facebook, the CEOs of both of those organizations now have to testify next Friday in front of the Senate and in front of the Senate Judiciary panel, the same panel that Judge Amy Coney Barrett was on. That's the Judiciary panel, and they have to face these guys regarding this whole thing that's happened. In fact, they're calling it I don't have the name up in front of me, but this is a very serious thing that's happening here. And in the face of the elections, the Senate is actually taking this pretty seriously. My problem is why this is not the first time this has happened. And we've seen these guys come up before the Senate panel before. What happens? Nothing happens. Nothing happens. And again, it goes back to what Clarence Thomas said. These guys are getting paid.
Right. No, I totally agree with you. So what do we do about that?
Well,
I feel hopeless a lot of times, Merle, because like I said, we found ourselves into this new world so quickly and we're unprepared for it. So I'm sorry, go ahead.
I think what Clarence Thomas is saying sheds some light on some potential hope here. And I think that's what makes this whole confirmation of Amy Coney Barrett very important as we take a look at the makeup of the Supreme Court. What we have seen over the past several decades is we've seen a gradual decline, erosion of our rights regarding free speech. And that definitely has everything to do with leftist mentality. And the court, the makeup of the court is actually looking like it's about to change dramatically here with Amy Coney Barrett. Have you watched any of these hearings this week?
No, I just watch a bit of the news reports on them.
Yeah. What's your so what I'm seeing?
I can tell you my opinion very quickly.
Yeah,
she seems really, really together. And Lisa and I talked about that, and I said, "Hun, if you got 7 kids, your priorities are a lot different than like ours are with no kids." You know, like she on a daily basis faces so much really important stuff. Like your kids are the most important thing in the world to you.
Right.
So that she goes up in front of this meeting trying to get torn down in very unethical ways. And I wouldn't even say, I'd say very disrespectful ways. She just seems to sail through it like, yeah, I've seen worse on a daily basis at my kids on a playground, you know?
I gotta say, I am super impressed with Amy Coney Barrett, and I think as far as any other Supreme Court nominee, I've never seen any one of them that can hold a candle to how this woman has handled herself. Wow. And I really think that she is borderline superwoman. As you say, she's got 7 kids. She's adopted 2 of them from Haiti. One of them is a special needs child. So just having one special needs child would be consuming. She's got a special needs child, and then she's got 6 others. Her husband is also an attorney, so he's a busy guy as well. So they obviously know how to manage their household. During this entire thing, her kids have been behind her in the actual hearing room for hours, very well behaved. She made a comment that when somebody actually complimented her on that, she said she has eyes in the back of her head. This is a class act person. And yes, just the grace and the calm demeanor is absolutely driving these people crazy. It's making them look silly.
I agree.
It really is. And really the thing that they've come after her about, and the fact is that it's her religious beliefs. She's a Catholic. And the press has been they've really tried to tear her down regarding that, calling her a handmaiden. That actually is a very insulting term that they're using, saying that she somehow is subservient in some way to men. And then they're coming at her with Roe versus Wade and the Accountable Care Act, and they're trying to say that she's going to overturn those things. And she's handled that whole thing with such grace without tipping her hand. And she's so smart. You know, the whole time, these people that are coming after her have mounds of notes in front of them. She's not had any notes whatsoever. She's
Wow.
calling all of these different landmark cases. She's going into detail about the landmark cases. She's making eye contact. She's being so polite to each one as they're smiling and attacking her. She has come off looking like a superstar. I do want to say this, though. Two things that jumped out that I thought were shocking. Mazio Hirono, do you know who she is?
No.
She's the senator from Hawaii. And boy, I'm not a fan of her whatsoever. She's mean. I mean, she's really mean. But she was saying that she was concerned about Judge Amy Coney Barrett's attitude towards the LGBT community, and that a term that she used gave her pause, and it was as the judge was referring to homosexuality, she used the term sexual preference. And I mentioned that from Ben Shapiro earlier. She says that sexual preference, the term sexual preference is an outdated term that anti-gay activists use to marginalize the LGBTQ community, and that what it assumes is that these people have a choice, so they can just choose their preference, whatever they want, and they're not born that way. And this is an attack on the gay community. Now, have you ever heard anything like this before?
No, that's okay. So this person says that she can climb up inside her head and read her thoughts.
Well, and just that the term sexual preference, which, by the way, we've used for decades now, suddenly is an offensive term, and it's a bigoted term. I mean, did she just make that up?
She just made it up.
That's crazy. And then another question that Mazio Hirono asked her point blank, have you ever been accused of sexual assault? And also, have you been disciplined for sexual assault? There's no evidence whatsoever about this woman. She's prefaced it by saying, well, I asked Judge Kavanaugh this question, so this is a question. It's only fair to ask you this question. I mean,
you're killing me. Where did this go? So she said, no, I have not. Correct? She
calmly looked at her. No, Senator, I have not been accused of that. And just very calm. It was, I mean, just classy. But you know, anybody else sitting in her seat would be highly insulted by these kinds of questions.
And therefore look a little bit guilty, and that's all they need.
That's exactly it. Exactly. But this woman does not take the bait anytime. In fact, one of the other ones, and I talked about this on the last show, was that each one of these senators that are Democrats are campaigning, and they're saying things like, you know, this is unprecedented that you would be here, and that you've been appointed as a Supreme Court justice with only a short period before the election. This has never happened before. The only time that it ever came close to this was when Abraham Lincoln, a seat became open when Abraham Lincoln was the president, and it was only a month or so before the election, and he did the right thing. He knew that the people would need to vote for the next president, and that was a fair thing, so he chose not to appoint a Supreme Court justice. And they've even said, you know, they call him Honest Abe, and that's what Honest Abe did. Almost all of them have said that, and I thought, what discernment for Amy Coney Barrett not to wade in on that. But the fact of the matter is that is not what Lincoln did, and they're lying about that, and they know it. Abraham Lincoln did not appoint a Supreme Court justice before the election. The reason wasn't because he thought it wasn't the right thing to do.
Can you hang on 1 second? I'm sorry. Had a quick pause there. I'm sorry, Merle. Pick up where you were.
That's okay. So the reason that he didn't appoint a Supreme Court justice is because the Senate wasn't in session. And back then, you can't just get on a plane and fly into Washington during the Civil War. It's going to take time. So the other thing is that the person that died was Chief Justice Taney. Now, Chief Justice Taney was the Supreme Court Chief Justice during the Dred Scott decision. The Dred Scott decision was the Supreme Court actually saying that slavery is legal, and that it actually, the whole Supreme Court decision actually supports that Black people aren't actually humans and that they deserve slavery. Now, I think that's interesting because for two reasons. Lincoln, if he would have chosen a Supreme Court justice and appointed a Supreme Court justice, he would have had to wait until the Senate was in session, which was after the election, which would have caused all kinds of parity because, of course, the people are voting, oh, he chose that person. He could have lost votes by doing that unnecessarily. So he's a shrewd politician. He's not going to do that. But secondly, as we take a look at this Supreme Court hearing that's happening with Amy Coney Barrett right now, you're seeing them say things like, the senators on the Democrat side saying things like, do you believe that Roe versus Wade is a super precedent? Now, I've never heard super precedent before, but
It's
basically
like super spreader.
what they're saying is that it can't be questioned, that it can't be overturned. Same thing with the Accountable Care Act. In other words, their premise is this: if the Supreme Court has decided it, then that's the law of the land and it can't be questioned. If that's the truth, and this is what they're trying to get her to commit to so that she wouldn't actually interfere with Roe versus Wade or the Accountable Care Act, if that's the truth about the Supreme Court, then slavery should still be legal. The Supreme Court also decided on the intern camps for the Japanese during World War II. Then that should still be legal as well. The Supreme Court has made many terrible decisions, and what they're trying to tell us is that these things should never be overturned. I have very strong opinions about abortion, and we don't have to go there, but since Roe versus Wade, over 60 million babies here in this country have been aborted. And 60 million, if we compare that to the Holocaust, 6 million Jews killed, that is a pretty enormous number right there that we can't deny. And as America being the leader of the free world, other countries have copied that same model across the world. And at this time, over 1 billion babies have been aborted, 1 billion. And so these are things that we should take a look at. Another one to take a look at is, look where Planned Parenthood is. Over 80% of the Planned Parenthood locations are in Black neighborhoods. And when we take a look at the Black population, over 52% of abortion or of Black pregnancies are aborted today. And then when we take a look at Black Lives Matter, why don't those Black lives matter? These are questions that the court is going to actually look at with clear eyes. And again, going back to the whole thing about the censorship that's happening, I think a new day is coming with the Supreme Court, and that gives me a lot of hope.
Gotcha. Where we're at, I don't want to weigh in on all those very political issues. I'm very moderate there, and it's a big undertaking.
Well, especially with the time that we have left.
Exactly. That's why I was about to say.
I did that on purpose.
Maybe we should take a turn towards the lighter side and start
I think that's a good idea.
And,
so in other words, I'm right.
Yeah, of course.
Again.
As always, Merle. As always. I wanted you to speak to a couple of these notes that you have there that I have no idea what you're talking about. On the lighter side, you said something about a trash day lizard.
Oh my gosh. Well, that's a story. So Friday's trash day. In fact, I'm like listening for the trash truck out there because we don't like to put our trash out ahead of the truck coming because people go through our trash all the time. And it's terrible.
We worry about raccoons.
Yeah,
you know,
people are searching through our trash all the time, and with this whole identity theft thing, it's a crazy thing. So Fridays are trash days. They come at various times. Sometimes they come really early, sometimes they come later. But I was just talking or thinking about how I was taking the trash out one day, and I was in my garage. I've got these two big bins I got to roll out there, and I rolled a bin out there, and this huge lizard came out from underneath of the bin, and it's in the garage. And I had this knee jerk. First off, it startled me.
Well, sure.
And secondly,
you say huge lizard. All right. For those listening, Merle's doing the whole I caught a fish a foot long.
Yeah.
Thing.
This was a big meaty lizard that came
now
up.
His hands are at about a foot.
No. I swear, Barry, it was like 10 pounds.
It's Godzilla.
No, it was a good, like, from head to end of the tail.
That's iguana. Like, that's iguana there.
It wasn't in the size. It wasn't as it was thinner than an iguana, but probably as long as a small iguana. Okay. And so I immediately grabbed a broom. And I'm like, this is where our laundry room is too. So I'm thinking, Anne Marie, I can't let this lizard be jumping out at Anne Marie. And so I went to town on this lizard. I tried to sweep him out, and that didn't work. And I ended up beating the daylights out of this lizard.
And this is the lighter side of things, folks.
And I ended up killing him. And then
my God, this is horrifying.
I felt terrible about it, but then I also felt like, you know what? I saved my wife from having to deal with this lizard and everything. And so I told her about it, and it turned out that the lizard had a name, and it was her friend, apparently, and I was the bad guy.
Okay, on that note, see you next week. Oh, that's a terrible story.
Well, it was funny when I was thinking about it, and I wrote it down. It was kind of funny how freaked out I was.
What was his name?
I don't know. It was like
Reggie
or something like that. I don't know.
Okay. Well, I'm not going to ask you about your other one because it concerns other wildlife.
Yeah, it was another. It was a spider, and I killed that too.
Okay, so I don't have a homicide on my hands here, but I wanted to tell you about it last night. I've been watching so many of these videos about dogs. Been talking to Lisa about the dogs, and oh boy. So I came across this one. I have to mention it. It's called Best New Puppy Surprise for Kids compilation. It's all these little clips about kids getting a puppy for Christmas. And almost every one of them just break down in tears, run to their mom and hug them type stuff.
I love those.
Yeah, and it says underneath of it, the caption's like, try not to cry. Yeah, I challenge you. I got the link for this. I'm going to put it in the show notes. I challenge you to not shed tears watching this. I swear there's nothing like kids with dogs, with puppies. They are peanut butter and jelly.
I love those too. Those are great.
Absolutely. I was born into dogs. We've had 2 dogs the whole time growing up, for the most part, the same 2 dogs. And, when they passed, it was absolutely tragic for me. But then when we got new ones, once again, it's like, I don't know, it's like going through the winter and then spring, a rebirth. And it's the natural part of life. But I swear there's nothing like kids with dogs. Nothing like, and dogs
Agreed.
With kids.
It's awesome. I love that too. Hey, before we go, I see you also have this wife sends husband into ocean in dissolving shorts.
I had that up there for weeks.
That is hilarious.
Yeah, did you look at it? Did you watch it?
I've seen it. Yes.
Oh God, it is funny. So I always appreciate when you have a couple, a married couple that seem like they go like back to college days, like they were buddies in college. They used to drink together and play pranks on each other type stuff. I have a few select friends that are married couples with kids, but you could tell that they go back to that. They still have that kind of friendship, camaraderie. And this is exactly that. This lady somewhere bought a pair of shorts that dissolve.
Where do you get this?
I know, really, that dissolve on contact with water, and she gave them to her boyfriend as a gift, and it's hysterical. So they're at the beach, and I think it's in the UK or something, but He goes swimming and his shorts start to fall off, and it's a relatively crowded beach, and he's trying to hold them together the whole time. She is laughing hysterically while she's filming
the best part is that she's laughing the whole time.
She's laughing hysterically, and this guy's trying to hold them together, and he comes back and grabs a towel and everything. I'm going to leave the link for that too. It is well worth watching. So
the best part is that at first he's in the water and he doesn't realize that this is happening, and he's just out there just clueless that his shorts are dissolving.
But he's such a good sport too. Like it's like this is what they do to each other, you know.
I love that kind of stuff.
Like
That's
Lisa
really
and I could not do that to each other. We would not talk for weeks after that.
I mean, let's face it. I don't want Anne-Marie. Please don't do that to me. This is like a terrible thing.
Totally agree. So, guys, take a look at it. You know, if you sign up for our email list at over50startingover.com, these links, the notes, everything comes right to your email box as it drops. So that's the best thing you could do. But go there as well and like our Facebook page, because you can also see the valuable content that we share there. Merle, see you next week for our to wrap
year
up
end.
Yes, 1 year anniversary. We'll have to think of something special to do for that.
Absolutely.
Cool. All right. Love you, brother. Talk to you next week.
Bye now.